Right, this just in. This is a really big deal. Have you heard how the Trump administration is trying to denaturalize some American citizens who have committed crimes? This memo just sent out yesterday by Assistant Attorney General Brett Shumate to all Civil Division employees, President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi directing them to prioritize denaturalization. The naturalization process is when you are an American citizen not born on U.S. soil and you go through the full legal process to acquire the American passport and the American citizenship. Denaturalizing would strip you away from that passport. You would not be considered an American anymore. You wouldn't be able to travel anywhere in the world with an American passport. So they go on to talk about in this memo how it is basically focusing on people who have committed certain crimes, and they listed about 10 things here. Cases against individuals who pose a potential danger to national security, terrorism, espionage, unlawful export from the U.S. of sensitive goods like technology and information. Also, gangs, criminal organizations, drug cartels, those who have committed felonies that were not disclosed during the naturalization process. So if you lied on your application during the naturalization process, your passport could be stripped away from you. Also, those who have committed human trafficking, sex offenses, violent crimes, fraud, Medicaid or Medicare fraud, or fraud against private individuals or corporations, those who have acquired the naturalization through government corruption, fraud. And the last one leaves it kind of vague. It's interesting. It says any other cases refer to the civil division that the division determines to be sufficiently important to pursue, basically leaving it up to the civil division to decide on a case by case, depending on the circumstances, who should be denaturalized. This is a really big step in President Trump's crackdown on immigration. However, it is not unprecedented. According to NPR, denaturalization was used in the 1940s and 50s and also expanded during the Obama administration, which it was used under him, and expanded also under President Trump's first term as well. It'll be interesting to see what the next move is, how denaturalization is being enforced. Be sure to stay with me for the latest updates. I'm going to stay on top of this and keep you updated.
Hi guys, my name is Esther Daniel and you're welcome back to the channel. So now the DOJ wants to start revoking people's citizenship even after you do everything right. You work hard, you pay taxes, you raise a family, and boom, they said you lied on a paperwork from 20 years ago and tried to deport you. Hi guys, my name is Esther Daniel and you're welcome back to the channel. Before we move on to today's video, please subscribe to the channel, like and share the video to help the channel out.
They are going to start revoking citizenship for naturalized citizens. Now, this is from a DOJ memo from June 11th, and we're going to go through it just a little bit, but there's three key points that I really want to bring up here. First of all, this is all going to be done in civil court, meaning there's no constitutional right or protection that guarantees you the right to an attorney, and the court will not appoint one. In addition, being in civil court, the burden of proof is lower, meaning that the government should have a much easier time proving the elements that it needs to in order to revoke somebody's citizenship. Second, the statute does not protect the children and spouses of naturalized citizens, meaning if you are not a legal citizen, but you are here legally because of your parent or your spouse being a naturalized citizen, if they lose their citizenship, you have to go as well. And third, we are already starting to see this, but this is very likely going to be used to target the politically engaged immigrant left, and they're already starting with Zoran Mamdani.
This Congressman Andy Ogles, he wants the Attorney General Bondi to explore denaturalization proceedings because he thinks Mamdani could have misrepresented or concealed material support for terrorism based on rap lyrics he wrote in 2017. Does President Trump think this is a worthwhile use of the Attorney General's time?
Well, I'll let the president speak to that. I have not seen those claims, but surely if they are true, it's something that should be investigated.
And if you pay attention to the language that they use in that clip, they're talking about what is typically known as naturalization fraud, where you conceal something or hide information from the government in your application and processing for naturalization. And if they find out about it later that you lied, they can absolutely come back and revoke your citizenship. But based on the DOJ's memo, they're looking to do far more than what the statute permits them to do. Now, from the DOJ's memo itself, the Civil Division shall prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization in all cases permitted by law and supported by the evidence. And they cite to 8 U.S.C. 1451 that we just looked at. That is going to be sweeping. They're not looking for small opportunities. They're looking to maximally pursue denaturalization. Now, like I said, 1451 deals with naturalization fraud. It typically doesn't seem like it would include anything that occurs after the naturalization has occurred, and yet this list of priority areas that the DOJ wants the Civil Division to look for opportunities for denaturalization proceedings appear to include a number of things that could be well after naturalization and would be simply just criminal or civil in nature that wouldn't normally rise to the level of denaturalizing somebody. But in particular, 8 gives me significant concern because of the amount of time that Trump and the rest of the people on the right have talked about how immigration under Biden and Obama was illegitimate. It was part of government corruption. They say that this was fraud. They've talked about bringing immigrants in and giving them green cards so they could vote for Democrats. My concern is that they're going to take people who were legally permitted at various points and find excuses to say they were only admitted because of government corruption or fraud. And then number 9 and 10 are very much just like catch-all, carte blanche, kind of whatever the hell we feel like terms. So there you go. If you want a more in-depth legal analysis, feel free to drop a comment. Let me know if there's enough support. I will go through and we'll actually break down the statute in more detail. But otherwise, I appreciate everybody's comments, likes, and shares, and don't forget to follow for more.
Okay, so here's what just happened that should be screaming across every headline. The Trump administration just issued a memo to the Department of Justice telling them to start prioritizing civil denaturalization. And that means revoking citizenship from naturalized Americans, people who became citizens legally, if the government believes that they got that citizenship fraudulently or pose a security threat. And sure, the memo claims that this is only for the worst of the worst, like war criminals, terrorists, gang members, and has been done historically. And that sounds fair in theory. But here's the catch. Once a naturalized citizen is targeted for civil denaturalization, they don't get a public defender. It's not a criminal case. You're just stripped of your citizenship in a civil court with no automatic right to a lawyer. And this opens the door to some seriously dangerous territory, because now the executive branch, meaning Trump's DOJ, gets to decide who counts as a fraudulent citizen. And once you're denaturalized, guess what? You're deportable. So this raises huge constitutional concerns. Who decides what counts as fraud? What counts as a threat? Are certain communities, especially immigrants of color, going to be disproportionately targeted? And what happened to due process? And let's not forget that citizenship is supposed to be the final stop in the immigration journey. You don't just undo it like an Amazon return. So when you zoom out, this is part of a pattern. Trump's already signed executive orders targeting birthright citizenship, and now this. So we're watching the erosion of what citizenship means in real time. So if you're thinking, well, this doesn't affect me, you should ask yourself, if the government can take someone else's citizenship, what makes yours safe? So you should call your representatives, ask them where they stand, and if you're a naturalized citizen or you love someone who is, this isn't just politics, this is your life. Citizenship is supposed to be permanent.
Something that each and every one of us should have woke up and paid attention to was this. The Trump administration just issued a memo to the Department of Justice to prioritize revoking citizenships. And that means revoking citizenships from naturalized Americans. Yeah. These are citizens that became citizens legally. And if the Trump administration decides that they became citizens fraudulently, they can go after whoever they want. And they can even go after people who they deem supposed a security threat. That could be anyone. And of course they're saying, oh, this is just for the criminals, the gangbangers, the rapists, the terrorists. That's bullshit. Because once they get targeted for denaturalization, guess what? They don't get a public defender. Because this isn't going to criminal court. This is going to civil court. Civil court. And that takes away your automatic right to a lawyer. So if you can't pay for a lawyer on your own, oh well. So that means Trump's Department of Justice gets to decide who's a citizen and who's not. And once they take away your naturalization, you can be deported. Period.
So officially, citizenship does not guarantee that you will not be deported or stripped of your citizenship. Based on a memo issued by DOJ, they're asking to prioritize denaturalizing people that either committed a crime, are suspected of a crime, or are suspected of committing errors or lying in their naturalization or visa applications. So what does that mean? That means that they're using any possible excuse to denaturalize people. This focus on denaturalization to maximize it, like they say in this memo over here, is something that hasn't happened in the past. Last time this happened was 1957 during the McCarthy era. And if you don't know what that is, you might want to look it up because we are making sure we exceed that era, apparently. And what they're doing is that they take cases from 2023 up of people that naturalized American or US citizens and looking for ways to denaturalize this person. If you have not been following the news, it was Stephen Miller, the architect of all this shit, the one who said that they were going to put in overdrive the denaturalization office. Because this is not about criminals. This is not about illegality. This is about race. This is about them defining who belongs in this country and who doesn't. And with them, not the Constitution, having the final fucking word of who is an American, who is not. So if you have not realized it by now, you might want to pull your head out of your rear and let the pub wake you the fuck up. I'm Alex. This is my rant, and I'm out.
Well, looks like things may be amping up a little more. The Department of Justice is now looking to denaturalize citizens who have either committed crimes or who lied to obtain citizenship. Wonder if they have anybody in mind in particular that they're going to look into. I did see where Andy Ogles personally asked Pam Bondi to look into revoking Mandami's citizenship today. Wonder if there's any other elected officials that they might be looking at too. I don't know, just a thought. We'll see what happens with this one.
Breaking news. The Department of Justice announces plans to prioritize cases to revoke U.S. citizenship. This was just announced today, but the Justice Department is actively prioritizing efforts to denaturalize U.S. citizens. This is specifically citizens involved in certain crimes. This is all based on a memo that was leaked on June 11, 2025. At least one U.S. citizen was already denaturalized last week. A UK national became a U.S. citizen a few years ago, but was convicted of certain crimes involving children that happened before he became a citizen but never disclosed, already lost his U.S. citizenship. Denaturalization was used heavily in the 40s and the 50s during the McCarthy era. If you lied about your criminal convictions, these new efforts get your U.S. citizenship revoked. Crazy thing about this, they're going to pursue this for civil proceedings. It means people will not be entitled to an attorney. This is happening. Stay tuned and follow me for daily updates.